Wow, we need to fact check what Grant Cardone just said at the Madison Square Garden's New York City event with Donald Trump. First of all, I'm wondering how much Cardone has donated to Donald Trump to get the opportunity to make the speech, but I will say, he gave a powerful speech. He said everything he should have said, and he invigorated his base, which is perfect. It's useful for Donald Trump, and I think it was powerful. Cardone has interviewed Donald Trump before and endorsed him in previous elections. So what has happened in this particular speech that was correct and what was not exactly correct? And why does it matter? Well, I think it matters because the differences are useful to understand, so let's get right into it. First things first. Grant Cardone says that blue cities are more expensive. He says everything from food, housing, rent are more expensive, and therefore Democrats make things bad. But it's worth noting that there are two types of blue cities. Now, again, both of them are blue cities, but there are really desirable blue cities, and then there are undesirable blue cities. And it's unclear whether that's because of politics, since you get the problems in both, or are cities for some reason just more blue? Because there are some cities that are more expensive, like Santa Barbara, Hartford, Connecticut, Honolulu, Boston, Santa Rosa, San Diego, Miami, and these technically vote blue, and they are more expensive, but they also attract a lot of people because they have a lot of jobs, they create a lot of gross domestic product, and they tend to have overall wealthier people living in the cities. It doesn't mean everybody is wealthy. It just means for some reason people go to these cities. And people don't go to the cities necessarily because of the politics, but when they are there, they might end up putting up with some of the NIMBYism, the not in my backyardism, or maybe contributing to it, or putting up with the city litigation blocks that make it hard for you to actually build new housing, which does drive up prices in these sort of cities. But you also have the same problem in some of the more dangerous blue cities. In fact, Cardone suggests that all blue cities are more dangerous, but it's really just some of the blue cities that are more dangerous. So these wealthier cities that I talked about, none of them show up on the list of the most dangerous cities in the country. Most dangerous cities in the country are going to be your Detroit, Memphis, Birmingham, Baltimore, St. Louis, Kansas City, Cleveland, Little Rock, Milwaukee, and Stockton. Those are your top 10 most dangerous, and none of those are your top 10 most expensive. So I don't know that you have a really clear correlation here because on one hand, Cardone's trying to say the most expensive also have the most crime. But that's not true. The most expensive are not the most crime-ridden. The least expensive are the most crime-ridden, and the most expensive are not the most crime-ridden. And they both happen to be blue. So I'm not really sure what to make of that argument. I don't know if that's a compliment to the Dems or the Republicans. So I'm just going to give this one to Cardone because I'm not really sure what to make of it. But I'm going to give a little bit of an opinion on it, and then we'll get into some that are a little bit more clear. When it comes to differences in these cities, it's important to know that what attracts people to cities can be very different. Some cities attract people because they are cheap. Some cities attract people because they have really high-paying jobs and the people are qualified for those jobs. That doesn't mean any individual went to those cities because they wanted to vote blue. It also doesn't mean that they went there to vote blue. They might damn well be a Republican and just unfortunately have a job that pushes them into the city for their case because maybe they totally disagree with the liberal politics. Or maybe they're liberal and they're like, cool, I feel at home. I don't know. I'm not imparting an opinion, just saying there is a difference there that Cardone doesn't hit on, and he does link most expensive to most crime, and it's actually the exact opposite. It's the least expensive are associated with the most crime. They just both happen to be liberal. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's go to some that are a little bit more clear. Cardone talks about Kamala Harris's and Tim Walz's plans on adding 87,000 employees to the IRS and how these tax policies don't add up. Okay, let's clear this up. This is very, very old news, Cardone. Joe Biden passed the Inflation Reduction Act in 2022. The IRS has been directed by Janet Yellen via the Treasury Department to increase taxation collection efforts on those making over $400,000. Now, Cardone says they want to audit all of you, pointing at the audience. Why do you need 87,000 agents for 800 billionaires? That's like 1,000 IRS agents per billionaire. That's crazy. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, it doesn't make sense because you're saying the wrong thing, Grant Cardone. There are over 3.8 million households in America that earn more than $400,000 per year. That actually works out to just one additional IRS agent per 43 families making over $400,000 a year. Now, I'm not a shill for more taxation and more IRS agents, but I am here to say that A, this is a Biden policy, which, yes, of course, Republicans are going to try to link Kamala Harris to this, and Kamala Harris probably supports it anyway, so maybe that's fair. But number two, this is old news. And number three, at least the stated intention is for those making over 400,000. And when you look at the numbers the way I've described them, it makes sense. Now, could they be lying to us? Of course. But on this one, I'm going to say Cardone's wrong on this one. Next one. Grant Cardone says that she passed the Inflation Reduction Act and promised us $3 trillion worth of inflation reduction, and we got more inflation instead. And she says she's going to build more homes, but she's never built a home in her life. Okay, well, she probably hasn't worked at McDonald's either, but I'm not sure that working at McDonald's or building a house really matters. But let's just put that one aside for a moment, because that one can get very politically charged. Let's assume neither of those matter. Let's just consider what analysts are saying. When we give credit where credit is due, we can look at Goldman Sachs, who says that the Inflation Reduction Act, which authorizes over $300 billion in spending, which will likely be interpreted to cause over $1.3 trillion in spending through loose interpretations, will very likely create inflation at first. However, later in the decade, it will likely be deflationary. So, as a result of this, Grant Cardone is correct. The Inflation Reduction Act actually creates inflation. However, in the future, it will create deflation, which Cardone did not mention, but that doesn't make him wrong. It does create inflation at first. When you spend on green infrastructure or new manufacturing, you're spending more money without getting the result of that new manufacturing capacity yet. And when that capacity comes online, that's when you start to see the deflationary effects. Unfortunately, those will probably come at a time when we're already facing disinflation and deflation in the future, and it could lead to significant wage deflation and a lot of people getting hurt in the long term. Government policies often have unintended effects. Now, so on this one, I'm going to say, Cardone, you are correct. On illegal immigrants, Grant Cardone says she let in 20 million homeless illegal immigrants. Okay, well, first of all, there isn't exactly a count on how many people who have gotten into the country were homeless versus just illegal. A lot of people come into the country and have a place to go. That said, let's just for a moment assume that doesn't matter. As of 2020, there were approximately 11 million unauthorized illegal immigrants in America. That is actually lower than the peak of 12.2 million in 2007. Now, yes, part of that is probably due to some amnesties, but this 20 million number that we keep hearing thrown around is really just a pie in the sky estimate. And keep in mind that at least 10.2 million illegal immigrants were in America as of when Trump left office in 2020. So, like, even if you say 20 were here today, half of them would have been in here by the end of Trump's term. And yes, in that case, worst case, it would have doubled, but, and I'm not saying that's good, but no data reiterates that. Data suggests that, yes, maybe the illegal immigrant population has grown by maybe 10 to 20%, 1 to 2 million. And then, of course, you've had some amnesties on top of that, so maybe throw in another million or so. And that is significant. I'm not downplaying that there is a problem, but it doesn't appear to be a full 20 million. And that full 20 million, even if it were, didn't come under the back of the Biden administration. We have to be careful here because remember, Harris is not the president. Joe Biden is the president. I know this is still somewhat hard for all of us to believe because we all sort of wonder, how did someone like Joe Biden actually lead? Not because we think he's a bad person necessarily, but because we all kind of just want to know, when did he lose his competence? It does make us a little nervous. But then again, as I made videos on his channel about we knew he was going to get replaced, it was just a matter of when and not if. And so that did end up happening. Next, 20 million small businesses are breaking even or losing money. So this is an interesting one. The Small Business Administration indicates that there are currently 33 million small businesses in America. Oh, on that one, Cardone, sorry, you're wrong probably on the illegal immigrant one. This is a pie-in-the-sky number that gets thrown around. I still haven't seen data on it. Maybe somebody can give me a comment on that in the comments down below with an actual citation of a count, although who knows, maybe the counts are wrong. Next, 20 million small businesses are breaking even or losing money, and Harris wants to support new businesses, 20 million new businesses, new small businesses, but not the existing businesses that are already in existence and are struggling. All right, so this is interesting. So if we break this down, we find that there are 33.18 million small businesses in America. According to estimates, only about 40% of those small businesses are profitable. Well, that works out to about 20 million businesses that are break even or losing money. So Grant Cardone is correct. There are about 20 million small businesses in America that are barely making it and are probably at risk of shutting down. Kamala Harris wants to increase the small business deduction from $5,000 to $50,000. Per the IRS, this is only available for initial startup costs, not ongoing costs. This would mean that current existing businesses would not be eligible for that increased deduction from 5K to 50K, and therefore this would only benefit new businesses, not existing small businesses. Therefore, Grant Cardone is correct about this. Unrealized capital gains. This is an interesting one. Mark Cuban has argued that he would be anti-endorsing Kamala Harris if she supported a tax on unrealized gains. He suggests this would be an economy killer and a really bad idea. And the Harris campaign has not come out to say that they are anti the unrealized capital gains tax, which would be very bad. The current proposal would impose a 25% minimum tax on an increase of your wealth if you have more than $100 million in wealth. So in other words, if you have $100 million in wealth and your stocks go up 10% in 1 year to $110 million, they would send you a bill for $2.5 million, even though you didn't sell any of those stocks. And so a lot of people think that would lead to a flight of capital from the United States and the stock market and a lot of selling before the law goes into effect and blah, 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 blah. Cardone's right about this. The Harris administration has not denied their support for an unrealized capital gains tax. So with that said, let's add this up. Going in reverse order. Unrealized capital gains tax, Cardone was right about that. Small business tax, Cardone was right about that. That's 2 out of 2. On the illegal immigrants, I'm going to say that's an exaggeration, so I'm not going to give that one to him. I'm going to go 2 out of 3 on that. On the Inflation Reduction Act, causing inflation and then deflation, yeah, he's right about that. That's 3 out of 4 he's right about. They will audit everyone in this room? No. So he's right on 3 out of 5. And then on the blue state issue, I'm going to give him that one because blue states or blue cities do exhibit principles of both of those, though they don't overlap. They seem to almost be mutually exclusive. But anyway, I give him 3 out of 6 on that, which means he scored a 50% on my fact check. Anyway, if you like this, consider subscribing. Also, by the way, if any of those of you are interested in having exposure to real estate, my real estate startup is offering a 5% annual yield paid to you monthly in a check or ACH deposit, whatever you'd like. It comes from rents and positive cash flow that we have on over $60 million of real estate already. And if you invest in these convertible bonds available at househack.com, any value that our company goes up above today's valuation, you get as well. So if I can 10x, like Cardone always says, this stock, you get that full 10x and you get the yield. Now, obviously this video can't be a solicitation because there's so much more to talk about and risks and downsides and everything. So make sure to go to househack.com, read the PPM, watch that full video over there. Check that out, househack.com. Thank you so much for watching, and folks, we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye and good luck.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.